Finally, a day with some natural light behind me. Beautiful. Okay. So, you, and me, we have the ability to access information outside of the 3D world, the traditional 3D world. We really operate in higher dimensions. Science has studied this extensively, both within your brain, working in higher dimensions, and so your brain's an antenna, essentially, and looking at the physics of the world around us with a variety of theories, saying that there's up to about 12 dimensions of reality or consciousness. And what I want to do today is shed a logical light on this, because a lot of the information out there, when you're dealing with the higher dimensions, you need a foundation on the 3D level to really understand how to step into the 4D level, 5D, and everything. And so I want to put a foundation, and this is a video that people without any psychical abilities or ability to access information outside of 3D yet can watch, and it will prove to you that these things exist and that you should start building a framework of life around them and with an understanding of them. So the first place to start is raw data. So there's qualitative things that I can bring up and quantitative things that I can bring up. But I want to start with quantitative because we live in a world where everybody wants the quantitative data for the most part. I love qualitative data. I like it more than quantitative data, actually. But we'll start with the quantitative. So the first thing that opened my mind up to this was a TED Talk by Russell Targ. It was banned, but basically it was him working with a bunch of other people, and I could name some names, Ingo Swann being one of them. But in a government program, they worked, and they would do a variety of things to work with these psychics and try to create data that would prove extrasensory perception, which, like I said, working outside of the traditional 3D way of viewing things. And so they would do things like find people who have been kidnapped instantly. They would predict the price of silver futures a week from the day or a couple days, and they would do that with astounding accuracy. And all of this stuff was done beyond statistical significance. So to simply put it, unless the data is totally fabricated, in this case, there's no possible way that they would be able to access this information from a purely just sitting in your chair. Obviously you can't see something that you can't sense with your 5 senses. So basically this is proving that you have more than 5 senses. You have something outside, or not outside, it's within you, but you have something else that you can use to perceive information. And so let's move it a little qualitative. I brought a book with me. This is my favorite book, Journeys Out of the Body, Robert A. Monroe. It was written in like the 70s, I think. Whatever, it's an older book, 71, and it just documents, this guy's an entrepreneur, and he starts having these experiences. And previously, most of these psychical experiences had been you're dying and you go out of your body. They're near-death experiences. So this was one of the first where you had, well, it's not the first, but the first well-documented book, I think, a very organic and foundational book on how to induce these experiences and what he went through in terms of interacting with other people, maybe visiting them at their house and they're doing something and he's explaining to them what they were doing, stuff like that. So you have this back and forth information, verification across parties. So it's another thing where if you accept what he says in the book, there's no possible way that this ESP isn't real. And so for me, I just look at all this different evidence from a variety of sources, and these are just two. There's so many out there, and this is what proves to me that ESP is a real thing. And so to get a little more to what that means, this information that you access in ESP, it can impact the physical world. It's not just, oh, maybe it's a dream of some sorts, but it can impact the physical world. There's no question about it. To prove this to you, I mean, take the silver futures, for example, that they were working on with the government. If you took that information about what the price was going to be in a week, you can make a lot of money, right? And I'm sure a lot of people have made money doing stuff like that. And so these trickle downs in the physical world really open up a perspective that you can impact your life, not just on a 3D level, but if you start interacting with energies on higher levels of consciousness and higher dimensions, that perhaps you will be able to create more of what you want in the 3D world. And so stepping outside and realizing this is really the first step, because once you really step into this stuff, it gets a lot crazier, because not only can you yourself access it, but if you think about it, you're translating this in the physical world where other people are also conscious, right? And they have these abilities if they choose to develop them. And so therefore, you have the possibility, at least in my view, to interact with other people on this higher level and other entities that maybe perhaps don't have a physical body. And that's a harder thing to explain to people, but understanding that you're accessing information that your physical body couldn't possibly have access to, it puts a new view on it. And the energy around you, you are an electromagnet. That's the truth. And your body is being inhabited by this electromagnetic conscious force right now, but you need to understand that you can step outside that, and the purpose is to break this cycle. See, if you don't step outside the 3D, you're always going to be in the 3D. If you die, you'll stay in the 3D, but if you expand your mind, you'll understand the mechanisms which are causing you to be stuck in 3D, and you'll be able to freely choose your 3D life, say through another incarnation. So let's put an analogy. So it's as if you detach from your timeline, this one timeline. So this is the dimension, right? You detach, go into the higher one, and you can freely view everything on that timeline. Even though you're perceiving maybe something that's happening at a time and space, you're perceiving it from a timeless space and time where you can access whatever you want. It's all about your will and what you choose to develop in that thing. It means you have an energetic presence of some kind outside of the body, or at least something that accesses information on other levels. And one thing that might confuse people is they're saying, well, if you're outside your body, why did you say your brain has access to higher dimensions of consciousness? Well, you need to understand that once you step into a higher dimension, time and space falls into that, right? And so the whole concept of time and space completely gets distorted, not in a bad way. It's just the nature of the experience. So destroy your 3D paradigm. It keeps you boxed in. I don't want to go too much deeper. I think this is a good starting point for people. I want everybody watching this to look into some of the research that I've presented, maybe get this book, Journeys Out of the Body. Prove ESP to yourself, and then it'll be a lot easier for you to step into the other important things on the higher levels, higher dimensions of consciousness. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and I will see you tomorrow. Please like, subscribe, and share.